Well, that's the thing about Pereira that people don't give him enough credit for. He's very clever and very technical.
Yep.
Because everybody just thinks about the power. His power is so extraordinary, but then you realize like he's not hitting hard all the time. Yeah. He's not like a guy just like Melvin Manhoef.
Yeah.
The best example of a quick rise to the top is Alex Pereira. He was the guy that I was like, when this mother comes over here, bodies are gonna drop. Everybody he touches, he's got the touch of death.
No.
It's another fight, and I'm looking at it with myself in mind first. I'm going in there to win. I'm going in there to win the belt, and you know, it doesn't really matter. I'm fighting for myself in there, and I want to do the best for myself.
Alex Pereira has surprised the MMA world with his latest training videos, as he is looking completely focused and ready to regain his UFC light heavyweight title at UFC 320 against Magomed Ankalaev. Alex Pereira makes it clear he is determined to reclaim the belt from Magomed Ankalaev. He acknowledges the controversy around their first fight, believing a draw would have been fair and kept him champion. Pereira explains that he wasn't at his best that night and vows to show a far stronger version of himself in the rematch. He also stresses that a knockout isn't necessary this time, confident that his all-around skills are enough to deal with Ankalaev in every area.
Back to Magomed, when you see the footage of him going home with the belt that was yours, and all the hoopla and stuff, how does that make you feel?
People say that he won, people say that he lost, people say that I win, like very contested, right? Why you don't give it a draw and a left to the belt?
So you are very motivated to get the belt back.
Absolutely. I can't wait for this moment to happen again, and it's gonna be a very different fight. That day was not the same Alex Pereira, so if come the regular Alex Pereira, it's already more than that. But imagine now if it's different. It doesn't have to be a knockout, but I feel that I have enough game to do whatever I want with this guy.
Alex Pereira also claims that he doesn't expect a trilogy fight to happen. While he admits the decision is ultimately up to the UFC and he's willing to face anyone, he believes his opponent's recent loss likely takes him out of title contention.
Yeah, and if you go out there, you beat him, are we looking at a trilogy here, or do you think it not necessarily works that way, given your credentials in the sport compared to his?
Yeah, I think the story will be over. You know, it's obviously out of my control. It's up to the UFC, and if they want to do it again, I mean, I'll fight anyone. But you know, to be honest, you know, from everything we've seen, I think with him losing, he's not going to fight for the title anymore.
Magomed Ankalaev responds by mocking Pereira, saying he's correct about not having a choice since he'll be knocked out and left without a title. He jokes about Pereira's past, claiming that after their fight, Pereira will be back to regular work instead of holding a championship. Magomed Ankalaev said, "You're right, I'm not gonna have any say because you're gonna be sleeping and on your way working at the tire shop again." Magomed Ankalaev predicts the rematch with Alex Pereira will be easier than their first encounter. He points out that rematches usually benefit the fighter who already won and believes Pereira will face that outcome. Confident in both striking and grappling, Ankalaev makes it clear he's ready to use any strategy needed to take control while keeping his own vulnerabilities hidden.
Ну, я думаю, реванш пойдет намного легче, чем первый бой, так как статистика говорит всегда, реванши со мной выходить это очень опасно. Я думаю, мы подтвердим то же самое, что со мной не стоит выходить на реванш.
Может быть, в этот раз вообще не стоит пытаться перевести Алекса, потому что ты, в принципе, перебивал ее стойки.
Все может быть. Я буду делать все, чтобы доминировать. Если бороться, надо будет бороться, биться стойки. Я думаю, у нас не будет проблем нигде.
Magomed Ankalaev makes it clear he wants Pereira at his peak for the rematch, so there are no excuses once it's over. He remembers the talk that Pereira wasn't fully prepared in their first fight and doesn't want that narrative repeated. Ankalaev mentions seeing training clips of Pereira drilling takedown defense, showing he's focused on wrestling, but warns he might change tactics and avoid grappling altogether. In his view, the approach won't matter. His goal is to defeat the best version of Pereira and leave no question about the outcome.
Ты видел отрывки тренировок Алекса Перейра, где его там борют, он встает постоянно, то есть очевидно он готовится к тому, что будет вставать постоянно.
Да, вполне возможно, что я не буду его переводить. Может, он это делает зря. Ну, пускай делает, готовится. Я, наоборот, хочу, чтобы он подходил к этому бою на 100% готов, чтобы у него не оставались вопросы по поводу поединка, чтобы не было таких разговоров, как в прошлом бою, что не был готов или что-то было не сделано. Я хочу, чтобы он подошел в хорошей форме и после начала поединка, чтобы у него не было оправданий.
Alex Pereira also responds to Ankalaev's remarks by saying they don't affect him. He notes that Ankalaev isn't seen as a real champion and only brings his name up to gain attention. Pereira adds that this is why he avoids reacting to such talk, as he doesn't want to give Ankalaev more visibility.
Yeah, and he's been saying a lot on social media. I don't know how much you've been paying attention to it, and kind of taking his shots at you. I thought pretty much since you guys were booked the first time, right? Recently said something about you drilling with taxi drivers for your takedown defense. Do you even pay attention to social media, being the star that you are? Does it motivate you at all, or do you feel like you kind of see what he's trying to do here?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't make a difference. You know, the fact is that nobody knows that he's a champion, and he always has to bring up my name to get some kind of coverage. But you know, that's why I don't reply, I don't retweet, I don't do anything, because I'm not going to give him that platform.
Alex Pereira explains that wrestling has been part of his training for years, not just for this camp. He credits Glover Teixeira for shaping his style by adding grappling to his striking foundation. For nearly 4 years, he has regularly mixed wrestling into his sessions, even if it doesn't always show on fight night. He highlights that behind the scenes, he continually works on wrestling and grappling to stay complete as a UFC fighter.
Are you upping the wrestling training? Are you doing more wrestling training in this training camp?
If he's training the same as always trained, a lot of wrestling in our training. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. That's what built him to be who he is in the UFC. It was Glover's style of wrestling, the way that he trained. Even guys go, oh, he keep his hands down, look at his head. Okay, but go and try to hit his head on the fight, see if it's hard, see if you can. You know what I mean? So he just showed things that he wants to show. He's always focused on the wrestling for the MMA training, not only the striking. It's been almost 4 years that he's around here now training wrestling like that, you know what I mean? But that's since day one. He was already an outstanding striker. So Glover helped to put all that grappling together, to put the takedown defense, to put everything, right? So he's constantly trying to evolve.
On the other hand, Joe Rogan shared his perspective on the fight, praising Ankalaev for shutting down Pereira's striking threat. He called it an impressive performance against one of the most feared punchers in the division. Rogan reminded that while Pereira's power usually gets the attention, Ankalaev has finished elite opponents as well. He highlighted Ankalaev's all-around ability and noted that his footwork resembled that of a smaller, faster fighter.
We were talking about how exciting the Ankalaev and Pereira fight was, even though people didn't like it because it wasn't like some crazy result and a giant knockout like you get in most Pereira fights, but it was so technical. And Ankalaev just did a fantastic job of shutting down the scariest guy in the division. It was so interesting because the consequences of exchanging with Pereira are so high, but also Ankalaev's knocked a lot of people out. We always look at Pereira's knockouts, but Ankalaev has knocked out some of the best guys in the division.
Light heavyweight Modestas Bukauskas shared his view on the fight, saying he still expects Ankalaev to get the job done. While he acknowledged Pereira's talent, he believes Ankalaev will raise his level and execute his game plan even better. Bukauskas noted that Pereira's striking isn't overwhelming, but feels that Ankalaev's southpaw style will present a challenging puzzle for him to handle.
I still think Ankalaev's gonna do the job. As amazing as Pereira is, I think Ankalaev will even be stepping up his game even more and implementing it even more. I knew the strikes from Pereira's side wasn't quite as much, but I do feel that southpaw style is going to be a difficult puzzle for him to deal with.
Moreover, Alex Pereira reveals that securing the rematch wasn't difficult. He explains that right after the fight, he already knew it would happen. It was just a matter of recovering from injuries. Pereira says the champion had little control over the timeline, as the UFC went with what suited him best. Although his opponent wanted earlier dates, the rematch ended up happening on Pereira's terms.
Impus algo e, pô, eu consegui o que eu quis.
No, it wasn't complicated to get the rematch. You know, as soon as I got out of that fight, I knew I was going to have the immediate rematch. It was just a matter of letting my body heal. You know, I had a lot of injuries, a lot of things. But, you know, him as the champion, you know, it just goes to show that he's got no say in anything. You know, in the end, whatever I spoke to the UFC about and whatever was convenient for me is what's ended up happening. You know, he wanted to fight in July. He wanted to fight all these times and didn't happen. So it came out to be, you know, just as I needed it, just as I wanted it.
Alex Pereira also addresses the possibility of moving to heavyweight, pointing out that he usually walks around at 230 to 235 pounds despite fighting at light heavyweight. He explains there was never a strict plan to change divisions, but heavy training, added muscle, and natural growth have pushed him in that direction. Pereira notes that he carefully monitors how his body responds, and if cutting weight becomes too difficult, he will make the move up.
You were on a scale, and I think it said something like 240. You obviously fight in the light heavyweight division. How much do you weigh now?
Around 230 to 35. That's the what he usually do. Even for middleweight, he got to weigh 230 at one point.
Wow. Was there any consideration before you took this fight about fighting at heavyweight?
No, absolutely none. Just took some break, training hard, training heavy, gain some muscle, gain some size, but all folks for this. For middleweight, people ask like going light heavyweight. He used to say like I'm gonna listen to my body when it's becoming harder. So the same way goes here. Eventually, if that gets harder for me to go light heavyweight, I'm gonna go heavyweight.
Meanwhile, heavyweight contender Curtis Blades voices support for Alex Pereira, admiring the way he recovered from injury while battling through an illness that Blades had also gone through. He believes that as long as Pereira steps into the cage healthy, the fight should go in his favor.
I'm gonna go with Pereira because of the injury, and also I heard he had this same illness that I had, and I know how that feels. So yeah, as long as he's healthy, yeah, I go with Pereira.
Chael Sonnen looks at what a Pereira victory in the rematch would mean, stressing the need to bring closure to the rivalry. He questions whether fans would remain engaged with endless rematches, saying the outcome should stand on its own. Sonnen explains that a win would prove Pereira had conquered the division's biggest obstacle, while a defeat would give direction to his future. Either way, he believes Pereira could then make the move to heavyweight, taking another step toward his long-term goal.
Will you come out and support and watch and be into the fight 2 more times? Because if Pereira wins, that's the only honorable thing to do, right? You gotta settle the score. Pereira knows this better than anybody. So, what do you do in that case? I mean, if Pereira wins, and we got to go back to Unk. If Pereira wins and we're not going to go with Unk, anybody in that top stratosphere, Pereira's already beat. And with a loss, the answer for Pereira will be very clear. And it will be what he's wanted all along. He now joins the heavyweight division.
Carlos Prates expects Pereira to win the rematch, noting that he has learned from his past errors and will enter fully prepared. He predicts that Pereira's readiness could lead to a knockout finish.
I think Pereira gonna win. You know, he got a break on his career. You know, he saw all his mistakes, you know, and fix everything, and now I think he's gonna step on the cage and gonna knock Ankalaev out.
Former UFC heavyweight Martin Buday called the fight a tough one to predict. He mentioned that Pereira didn't seem like his usual self in their last encounter and wondered if he would come into the rematch more aggressively. Buday rated the fight as a 50-50, but admitted that if he had to pick, he would like to see Pereira win.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one to decide. We will see, because Alex Pereira in their last fight seems like something was not right about him, because he was like not like we are usually used to see him fighting. So we will see if he comes in like more aggressive fashion into that fight. So I got that fight like 50-50.
Okay. Who would you give the edge to though if you had to pick someone? Who do you think gets it done?
I would like Alex to win.
Furthermore, Andrew Tate shares his belief that Alex Pereira will come back stronger, remembering their planned matchup during the Showtime era before Pereira faced a different opponent. He commends Pereira's experience and mental resilience, highlighting how he learns from both wins and losses. Tate adds that fans hold Pereira in high regard and expect him to return even more formidable.
Last thing, I saw you and your brother in Vegas over the weekend. Do you have any words for Pereira? He took a loss, like any maybe words of encouragement?
Pereira's an OG. Pereira fought Sahak Papayan, and I was supposed to fight Pereira a long time ago, but he ended up fighting Sahak instead back in the It's Showtime days. So him and I have been fighting way back when. So he's been around. He knows the game.
Yeah.
He understands you win some, you lose some. You either use it to come back stronger and better and learn something, or you use it to destroy you. It's like everything in life, right? So I think he already knows exactly what to do. The world loves him. He knows that.
You think he'll win the rematch?
I think he'll be back. Yeah, the world loves him. He's a loved guy. He'll be back.
Arman Tsarukyan admits he wasn't shocked by Pereira's defeat to Ankalaev and expects the rematch to go the same way. He highlights Ankalaev's striking, particularly his left hook and kicks, as key factors. Tsarukyan remembers Pereira having trouble with leg kicks early, which led to changes in stance and tactics. Although he acknowledges a few rounds were competitive, he feels Ankalaev still maintains the upper hand overall.
What do you think of the main event, Magomed Ankalaev beating Alex Pereira?
I know that Ankalaev gonna beat him if it's not lucky punch. We know like Pereira, he's so dangerous. He has a good left hook and kicks, leg kicks. But first round he started with leg kicks, and I was scared like again they're gonna like kill his legs, and then he gotta change his stand. But then he could change his game. He started to go forward and he won last, I think, 4 rounds.
So you scored it for Magomed?
3-2. 5 was like even 50-50, you know, you never know.
Meanwhile, Mandel Nalo called the fight uncertain but leaned toward Ankalaev. He noted that Ankalaev controlled their first matchup and doesn't expect Pereira to have changed much. While Pereira still has knockout potential, Nalo thinks a more focused training schedule might help him, though Ankalaev holds the edge based on their first fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a question mark. The first fight was not a blowout, but it was just kind of easy for Ankalaev to control where the fight went down, and I can't imagine that Pereira has done anything drastic to change the way he fights. Obviously he's always got the chance to score a sick knockout, but like it's like the only thing that makes me think Pereira has a better shot is that his social media schedule doesn't seem as messed up as it was before the first fight. Like before the first fight, it just he was like in Korea sparring some heavyweight, and then like at every UFC event, and then he went to Japan, and it's like I don't know how you can perform doing that. And then he had fought Khalil Roundtree and Jamal Hill, like he fought everybody before that. So I don't know, maybe he's been able to come back and just like commit to training and game planning more. But I would have to give it to Ankalaev just based on how the first fight played out.
Bantamweight Santiago Luna believes Ankalaev has a style Pereira can't easily overcome. He points out Ankalaev's mix of pressure, powerful strikes, and cage grappling, which wears opponents down over time. Luna thinks Ankalaev will stick to a similar game plan, but adding some wrestling could make controlling Pereira even easier.
Oh, Ankalaev. I think he has a style that Pereira can't beat. It's the pressure and the knowledge that Ankalaev has of Pereira just, you know, throwing that left hook to or those power shots to knock out, where he's mixing up with the, you know, cage grappling, you know, that drown. Because a lot of people think like, oh, you're on the fence, you're not really, you know, taking damage or getting. But the people, the guy, you know, the fighter on the cage or with their back on the cage is getting tired. You know, he's defending a takedown, so you are getting tired for that time being in there. So I think the plan is going to be the same for Ankalaev, and you know, it would be amazing if we were to see a little bit of mixing on the wrestling in there to take him down, just so it could be a little bit easier.
On the other hand, Zhang Mingyang believes Ankalaev will keep his title in the UFC 320 rematch against Pereira. He thinks Pereira no longer has the same drive he once showed, which might influence the fight. While recognizing Pereira's top-level striking, Zhang favors Ankalaev based on what he observed in Pereira's recent performance.
We mentioned the title fight. Magomed Ankalaev is the champion. He's running it back with Alex Pereira at UFC 320 on October 4th. I'm curious, who do you think wins that fight? What's your prediction for the title fight?
觉得我还是会选择安卡拉耶夫，因为我觉得佩雷拉好像现在没有战斗的欲望。如果说真正的佩雷拉回来了，我觉得在战力上还是佩雷拉有优势。但是如果说佩雷拉还像之前那样的话，我会选择安卡拉耶夫。
Yeah, I think still Ankalaev can defend his title because I think Pereira is not.
Jeong Ming Yang feels Pereira has lost some of his former intensity ahead of the UFC 320 rematch with Ankalaev. He points out that Pereira's financial success has reduced the hunger that once fueled him, giving Ankalaev a potential advantage.
Why do you think there's a lack of motivation there, in your opinion?
赚到了太多钱，就不管是哪个选手，在赚到很多钱过后，都不会有战斗的欲望，都不会喜欢这个行业。
Because he has earned too much money. He's too rich. I think it's no matter who you are, as a fighter or as a human being, if you are too rich, you are just like a kind of lack of motivation. As when you are young, when you are poor, when you are hungry. I think that's normal. It's not uncommon.
That concludes today's video. Let us know your thoughts on this matchup in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates on upcoming UFC fights.